Today we're going to be looking at the Kasrkin and whether or not it's a good unit. I've heard from the community and a lot of people are kind of torn on them, but today I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions and give you some strategies that may make them more viable at the very least if you feel indifferent. So without further ado, guys, let's check the Kasrkin out. Now, the thing I want to start with, they're 80 points to field, which is maybe on the high end, seeing as the shock troops, 2 of them can make 1 squad of the Kasrkin. However, they do have 65 health per model. If you were to compare that to the Cadian shock troops, these guys have 10 units and 30 health per. These guys have 5 units and 65 health per. So they technically have 20 more health than the Cadians. They have 4 spaces of movement, 4 armor, and their evasion is at 5. They also have 2 weapons. They have the Hotshot Lasgun and they have the Hotshot Volleygun. Now the difference between the two, the first one does 7 attacks, 3 to 5 damage, 2 armor piercing, 1 to 6 range, optimal at 4, and an accuracy of 80. Which isn't crazy. Now in terms of the Hotshot Volleygun, the Volleygun has 9 attacks compared to 7. Now that may not seem crazy, but 7 compared to 9, that's 2 more extra shots per unit. Per unit would be 5, 10. So you get 10 extra shots collectively together. And then the damage is 3 to 5, armor piercing 2, that's all the same. Range is 1 to 4, optimal at 3, whereas the Lasgun was a range of 1 to 6. Optimal at 4. So keep that in mind. This thing does have a shorter range, but you do get way more shots. The thing that makes these two so much different is the ability. But actually, before I get into abilities, we do have the infantry ability, which embeds the officer, which if you want to check that video out, it's in the description section below. So the first one is the Hotshot Lasgun with the Melta mines. And the Melta mines are a stealthy mine that gets deployed that when landed on, it detonates 90 to 120 damage, and any hostile unit inside of it gets hit. There is no armor piercing damage, so it just does a solid amount of damage, which is awesome. The mine will then become visible after 3 turns if nobody has stepped on it. Now here's the thing, guys. This mine is fantastic for PvP, not PvE. It just simply isn't. It doesn't matter if the enemy can see you put it down or not. The mines will be visible to the AI no matter what. I think there needs to be some sort of coding that changes here. I think there's something wrong with the mines specifically, because you'll notice that the enemy will run up to the mines and they will just like wait. Especially if you're facing an enemy that's melee, they'll just stand there and wait. Now, the one thing that does help, however, is that after the 3-turn cooldown, when they see the mines, they'll attack them, and they'll blow up, and then they'll move in. So this can actually ward them off, and you can block entry point to the enemy attacking your forces. But just keep in mind, it's not good in PvE. Also, there's 2 ammunition, so after a 3 cooldown, then you can put another one down. I just don't think this is a good strategy personally. Now for the volley gun, the reason that the gun is different isn't just because it's a volley gun compared to a lasgun, it's because of the overcharged salvo. So the overcharged salvo makes the unit makes a range attack of plus 2 shots, so it goes from 9 to 11 shots, and an armor piercing of 1, which gives it 3 armor piercing instead of 2. The unit will gain overheated status, which reduces the number of shots in the future by 20% per stack, so keep that in mind. It does reduce the number of shots that you can take from this gun, but you can keep using this overcharged salvo. Believe it or not, this is really powerful against most enemies. And yes, you may say, well, 9 armor is way higher. Yes, but you can also utilize the Castilian, who uses the ability to bring it down. You bring the armor down a little bit, and it does a lot of damage, as seen on the screen. This should not be taken lightly. The unit is actually very powerful in that regard. So now the big question, is the Kasrkin a good unit? Before I answer that, guys, just understand YouTube hates content creators unless you hit that like. So it's more supporting me that way, that's all I'm asking. Here we go. So, the Kasrkin, is it a good unit? I think it is underrated. I think it is actually a really good unit. I don't know if it's the staple unit, but as you saw, or as you can see in the videos, they are hammering enemies. The extra salvo is so important. It is so dangerous. However, I will say that the difficult portion of it is the Melta mines. I have struggled to make Melta mines work. They can be very powerful. They do destroy every unit on that tile, and there is no barring on the armor damage. Is it enough? You know, the unit itself just doesn't shine with the Lasgun, in my opinion. But if you're using the Volleygun, you're automatically going to hammer more downrange. And I know it was brought up about the shock troops and how you lose the attacks between the guns. You have the bayonet with 2 attacks, and you have the Lasgun just by itself with 3 attacks. And again, these guys aren't damage dealers, but when you look at something like these guys, the Kasrkin can absolutely wreck. And yes, you have to be relatively close, just keep them in the back line. Have them as the damage dealers behind your Cadian shock troops. That'll make them way more viable. I think that they're actually a tough unit as well. At 65 health per unit, very positive outlook on these guys. A lot of damage that comes through does 26 to 36 or 20 whatever to 40, right? It's not going to be enough to kill one of these guys, and even the splash damage can help you. However, there are units that are going to eat them alive, and that is true. Again, going back to my thoughts on the Melta Mine, the Melta Mine has its purpose in PvP, but not PvE. The only strategy that I've been able to come up with when it comes to the Melta Mine is blocking an entryway for the enemy. The enemy just sees the mine, and if you do hold them off for a little bit, when the mine shows itself after 3 turns, they just attack it, which can slow them down longer. But again, it only works if there are melee units. I would just simply avoid this if it's PvE. You have to look at the risk. Is the juice worth the squeeze for you? For me, I definitely think they do. I think having 2, 3, 4 of these is perfect. Having 4 of them probably is your best case, but you also have to keep in mind that you're giving up other things. So like if I asked you, do you think an Ogre squad is better than a Kasrkin? Well, the Kasrkin is 30 less points. And it doesn't matter what tier, what weapon you're using, it doesn't change the price because the cost is 0. So let me know what you guys think. Did I change your mind? Is it something that you're going to give it another shot? You're going to try to take down some Tyranids? Or are you going to shelve them? Totally understand if you do. But that's my thoughts. I think it's a good unit. I think it's underrated. And I think that it might get more utilized in the future. So, thank you. Thanks for watching. And I will see you in the next unit guide.